Then he summoned the 12 together and gave them power and an understanding of their source in their I amness over all demons and to heal all diseases. And he sent them out to proclaim the kingdom of God and to heal the sick. He then advised them to travel light. They wouldn't need a staff or travel bag, not even food or money, neither a change of clothes. Allow the hospitality of the locals to be your home base to operate from. If people do not accept you, move on. Do not carry the negative energy with you. Don't take it personal or be offended. Thus, they were on their way, visiting village after village, spreading the good news and curing people everywhere. The tetrarch Herod Antipas heard about all these things happening and had no idea what to make of it. He was puzzled by the reports. Some even suggested that this could be John the Baptist reincarnated. Others thought that this man, Jesus, could possibly be a reappearance of Elijah or perhaps another of the ancient prophets. But Herod reasoned that this couldn't be, since he was the one who beheaded John. However, the rumors kept coming, and he became more and more curious to see this man in action. On their return, the apostles gave Jesus a full report of all they did. He then took them on a quiet retreat to a town called Bethsaida. But it was not possible to hide from the massive crowd who kept following him, and receiving them kindly, he continued to speak to them of the kingdom of God and curing whoever who needed healing. Towards the evening, the 12 suggested that he should send the crowds to the villages and farms nearest to them so they might find food and lodging, since the area where they were was remote and no one lived there. Why didn't you feed them yourselves? Jesus replied. We have nothing except 5 loaves and 2 fish. Or should we have gone to buy food for these massive crowds somewhere? There were approximately 5,000 people. He then said to his disciples to spread them out in groups of about 50 each. Thus they got everyone seated in their groups. He took the 5 loaves and 2 fish and gazed into the heavenly dimension. Then, celebrating what he saw, broke the food into portions and continued to give it to the disciples to distribute amongst the crowd. Everyone had enough to eat until they were fully satisfied, and there remained 12 baskets filled with broken pieces. While Jesus was in solitary prayer, his disciples joined him, and he asked them, So, what is the opinion of the crowds about who I am? They replied, Some think that you could possibly be John the Baptist reincarnated, or even a reappearance of Elijah, or another of the ancient prophets resurrected. And you? Who am I to you? Jesus asked them. Peter answered, The Messiah of God. Jesus responded with a clear instruction that it would not be wise at this time to spread any rumor about him being the Messiah. The Son of Man is destined to suffer much abuse and cruelty. He will be rejected, then tried and sentenced to death by the elders, the high priests, and the law professors. And on the third day, he will be awakened to life again. He then looked everyone in the eye and said to them, Joining me in close companionship in your daily walk involves perceiving my mission as fully representing you. Get over and done with any idea of self that contradicts your true I amness. Here is how you do it. Lift up your cross once and for all by seeing it mirrored in mine. My cross is your cross. Trying to keep the self of your own making intact is a lost cause to begin with. Losing yourself in me is realizing that I am the source of who you are by design. This is your saving grace. Here's the bottom line. How does prostituting who you really are translate into any profit when all you've gained is the momentary sham applause of the entire religious world? Shame and glory are opposites. How foolish it would be for someone to exchange the glory of the Father and his celestial host of saints. This includes the entire spectrum of the prophetic word for a fleeting sensation of the approval of the religious world of the day by being embarrassed about me and my conversation as the Son of Man. The kingdom of God is not a future event beyond your reach. You don't have to wait till you're dead to see it. Some of you standing here are about to dramatically witness what I am talking about. The following week, this conversation was endorsed when Jesus took Peter, John, and Jacob with him and ascended the mountain to pray. And while he was praying, his appearance was spectacularly changed by the radiance of God's splendor bursting through his skin. His face and even his clothes became dazzling white like light. Look, both Moses and Elijah were there with him and talking to him. Their appearance was equally glorious, and their conversation focused on his departing and the fulfilling of everything the law and the prophets pointed to, which was about to take place in Jerusalem. Then Peter and company, weighed down with the enormity of the event and struggling to keep their eyes open, were suddenly wide awake to witness this glorious moment. They saw Jesus and the two men engulfed in splendor. Peter, not really knowing what to say, did the polite thing when he noticed that the two men were about to leave and suggested they build 3 tabernacles for Jesus, Moses, and Elijah. While he was still chatting away, they were suddenly struck with awe, being overshadowed by a cloud and enveloped in it. Then a voice from within the cloud spoke, "This is my son, the incarnate Logos. Hear him." In the silence following the voice, Moses and Elijah were gone. It was just Jesus. The disciples were speechless, and for the time being kept their encounter secret. They descended the mountain the following day, where a large crowd was waiting to meet him. And a man from the crowd called out and implored Jesus to consider the condition of his one and only son. He explained to Jesus that his son would get sudden seizures, and foaming at the mouth, he would scream loudly. The spirit would hardly depart from him without severely bruising him. He said that he implored the disciples to help him, but they were not able to. Jesus responded with a sigh of frustration. "How long will I be here, face to face with you, and mirror echo your identity before you finally get it? I cannot get any closer to anyone in any generation than what I already am in the incarnate prophetic word. Why confuse who I am with your twisted ideas of yourself, conceived in your unbelief?" He then asked the father to bring his son to stand face to face with him. When the child approached Jesus, the demon threw him on the ground and convulsed him severely. Jesus restrained the unclean spirit, healed the child, and gave him back to his father. Everyone was struck with astonishment at the magnificence of God, and they marveled at all the things Jesus was doing. Hold these words in your ears. since the Son of Man is about to be betrayed into the hands of men. Even after everything they've witnessed, they still could not get to grips with what Jesus meant with these words. There remained just too many blurry edges in their minds, yet they didn't feel at liberty to ask him for more detail. They knew that with all the attention they were getting, their personal fame was increasing, which then became a hot topic of dispute amongst them concerning their own pecking order. Jesus was aware of their reasoning in their hearts and took a little child to him and said, "To embrace a little child is to embrace me. For a moment, forget about the great things you've witnessed and done. Imagine me as this little child. To see the significance of life hiding in a little one is to see what my Father sees in everyone. The Father's honor is vested in the little child. Your greatness is not in how famous you can be in your own or someone else's estimate, but in discovering your individual value in your Father's embrace." Then John replied, "Rabbi, we saw a man casting out devils by using your name, so we told him to stop since he was not a part of our group." Jesus said, "Hey, why hinder him? Whoever is not against you is on your side." The time pointing to the culmination of his mission and the day of his ascension was fast approaching. So Jesus proceeded with focused intent to Jerusalem. He sent messengers ahead of him to prepare a place for him en route in a Samaritan village. However, when the Samaritans learned that he was just passing en route to Jerusalem, they took offense and did not welcome him. The sons of thunder, James and John, were immediately ready to retaliate with fire from the sky and strike them with a bolt of lightning. Jesus turned on his heels and rebuked them sharply. "Do not confuse my mission and spirit with the distortions and violent outbursts of anger that you inherited from your historical political hatred of your enemies under the disguise of a zeal for God." Thus they proceeded to another village. On their way, a certain man said to him, "I will accompany you wherever you go." Jesus answered him, "Foxes have dens and birds have nests, but we're not sure where we'll sleep tonight." He said to another person, "Why don't you accompany me?" The man responded, "I will eventually, once I no longer need to take care of my father and after I've buried him." Your mission is to awaken people out of their spiritual slumber with the good news, not to bury them. There will be enough others to bury the dead. Another candidate said, "I will first have to manage my responsibilities at home." Jesus replied, "Once you've engaged the oxen and the plow, then your focus on the line of the furrow does not allow any distraction.